What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And Bitcoin is absolutely melting down. However, it is not just Bitcoin. We have the S&P down, we have the NASDAQ down, as well as even gold taking a pretty heavy dip today, at least for gold. But what the heck is happening right now? Should you be panicking? Should you be selling your bags? So guys, I'm not going to waste too much time here. I'm going to jump right on into the charts so we can talk about those key levels and what I think is coming next. Let's get into it. So guys, here we are on the Bitcoin chart. Now, if you've been keeping up with my live streams every single weekday at 5:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you will know that we were looking at this potential bearish case that could have played out, which now we know has played out. I even had some people in the chat. Some people were mad. Some people were saying, if this happens, Frankie's the only person calling for lower prices. Although I wasn't just calling for these prices, we were just looking at this as a potential possibility. However, guys, we did wind up seeing this happen, and it all started here on the 2-day when we had that money flow crossover into the red. And anytime you see a money flow crossover into the red, guys, especially on the 2-day, that will indicate that the longer term trend will continue in whatever direction the money flow is going. In this case, it was to the downside. And then we saw price dip to 53K. And as this money flow remained in the red, we were looking at that possibility of getting a lackluster retracement to the upside to put in a lower high and then continue to break structure to the downside, hitting the next lower target, which was sitting at about $51,000 to $52,000. And you guys can see we actually have come down and hit that level. I even had some people in the chat calling me crazy. Why is this guy looking in the 50s? This is a bull market. But guys, I am simply only here bringing you the information on the charts, and that 2-day money flow was the first warning sign. But not only that, we also have the 3-day money flow coming out, which is also continuing to come out here. 4-day money flow also trending out. And then we also more recently had these medium hourly time frames crossing into the red, like the 8-hour, which is something we were looking at on the live stream. And you can see this indeed did give us that bigger move down. And now we're dealing with all these geopolitical problems and all these things, these potential black swans that could continue to dump the market. So I want to talk about those next key levels to the downside in case things get really ugly here. So obviously, guys, that first level of support that we've been looking at all the way since before the 4th of July dump was down here at 51 to 52K. You can see we are interacting with this level almost perfectly. And I am not in any long positions just yet, guys. I need to see some kind of consolidation or some kind of entry trigger to actually take a trade here. I am not interested in catching knives, especially with the way the higher time frame money flow looks, with the 4-day money flow coming out, as well as all these fresh red dots. You can see there's a 5-day red dot, a 6-day red dot, as well as a weekly red dot confirmed. And yes, if we go ahead and put on our Heikinashi candles, which is what Market Cypher was designed for, you guys can see in all of its glory, we now have our second ever weekly blood diamond printing on Bitcoin, guys. And the last time this happened, we did wind up getting a dump into the actual bear market, which wound up giving us a 65% correction from that blood diamond. Now, I'm not necessarily expecting the exact same thing here. I just kind of want to point back to history. And this is the first blood diamond we ever had on the chart. But you can just see how bad these can wind up playing out. Again, I'm not necessarily expecting a 65% dump, but this is definitely not a good sign. And this is a huge point for the bears. And again, guys, the money flow on that 2-day we have been looking at for so long. And if you take anything away from this video, please take away that the charts again wound up playing out the way they said they were going to as that 2-day money flow was coming out. Nobody wants to hear that Bitcoin is going down as it's consolidating in an uptrend, which is typically bullish. But again, we only stick to the charts and the data, and this made it much more likely to come up for that retracement, put in the lower high. And not only that, guys, we talked about this a lot recently. We came right up into that 786 Fibonacci retracement level, which you guys all know if you watch my stuff is the highest probability area to put in those lower highs, which is why we were looking for that potential rejection. And then you just think to yourself, what's higher time frame money flow doing? If you know it's coming out, then it's going to be likely that you're going to break that structure to the downside continuously on coming down to those next targets. And hopefully you see us talking about this stuff and seeing it play out, and it gives you a little bit of confidence to stick to your actual analysis and gives you the confidence to actually take the trades and make some money. Now, I want to talk about some levels underneath this, guys. Obviously, 51 to 52K, this was the next, this was technically the next level that we were looking at, which again is starting to somewhat hold up, but I'm not interested in just catching the knife here. I need to see that entry trigger. Now, a couple other levels I want to look at with you guys is going to be the macro volume profile. I've been talking about this with the premium Discord over the past week or so. When we pull our volume profile, you guys know we look at this previous bull market value area very often. If you take a look at this kind of consolidation that we had, another reason why these next support levels that we were looking at, sitting near that CME gap between 58 and 59K. If you guys watched the live stream last week, we were talking about if we lost these levels, it was very likely to get a big drop to the downside, breaking the structure. But not only was this important because we had this naked value area, but also we were dancing right on top of the macro value area high. And once we lose that macro macro value area high, it was going to be much more likely to get the bigger drop to the downside, potentially targeting the macro POC of that range pulled from the top of the bull market, sitting at about 47,414. Now, we do also have this golden pocket retracement. When you pull this from the impulse down here in January to the actual all-time high, you can see our golden pocket is somewhat confluent with that level. So I am going to be watching this zone very closely if we do wind up coming back down. And if we wind up losing that level, guys, we could be in the danger zone, because remember, if you lose that golden pocket, the next likely place for price to go is to go for that 786. But the problem with this 786, guys, is that it is below the macro POC of this range. And I'll be honest with you guys, if we wind up losing this macro POC, this is going to be, in my opinion, pretty bearish for Bitcoin, because as we know, once you reject the high, the next likely place to go is to the POC of the range. And then once you lose that POC, you're going to be looking to go back down to the value area low. Now, I'm not necessarily calling for $30,000, obviously, but nonetheless, losing that POC could be extremely bearish, especially if we continue to see some of these black swan events happen and we do wind up getting that bigger drop to the downside. There are lower levels underneath us getting closer to about $40,000, but really, guys, we want to stay above this $47,400 POC, because again, we get stuck underneath that, it's going to be more likely that we get a continued drop to the downside. So if we do wind up losing that POC, guys, this 786 sitting at 44,370 is going to be absolutely key. And if you watch the live streams, you will know we have been looking at this lower support down here in the 40s, as there is a bit more consolidation down here. This is where the ETF was approved, so this is very important support in my opinion. And if we go ahead and pull up that zone, it is sitting right in confluence with that 786 Fibonacci level. So if we start losing that POC, we really want to bounce off this zone, because if we do not bounce off this zone, guys, we could be looking at a much bigger drop to the downside. But we are not at those levels yet. Hopefully we don't have to even deal with them, but I just want you guys to have these levels, as I felt crazy looking at that 51 to 52K level, and we even had some people saying we're never going to see those levels again. But here we are once again with the TA playing out and the levels getting tapped. And that is why we ignore social media, guys. People do crazy things for clicks and attention. You don't want to pay attention to social media. You want to stick to your analysis, and that is why I only give you guys the information on the charts. I am never going to come up here and say price is going up if I genuinely don't think that. And this is exactly why, because we've been looking for this for a very long time, and here we are finally seeing it happen. Even though everyone thought we were going to $1 million on this pump, we knew that it was likely a retracement for a lower high and a drop to the downside based off the higher time frame money flow. And now with the addition of the blood diamond on the weekly, things could potentially get a little bit worse here. But right now, guys, really what we want to do is definitely hold above that $47,350 POC. And if we can get back above this value area high at about $54,500, this is going to be another absolutely critical level to get back above. You can see we are getting a little bit of a bounce here, but we are rejecting this level. We need to get above this level, guys, because if we get stuck underneath here, the next likely place for price to go is going to be that POC. And then this and this 786 are really the levels that we need to hold if we do not want to see Bitcoin see a gigantic drop to the downside. And we are starting to see some lower time frame confirmations here, guys. We did get some bull divs into this golden pocket, which is probably why we're getting that bounce. But again, I am not in any long positions right now. I am letting this dust settle. I'm not interested in catching knives. I even told the Discord last night, hey guys, not catching this knife, not seeing any strength. And at that time, we were much higher than we are now, so that wound up being a good decision. But before I let you guys go, I also want to show you guys a couple of other charts that I'm keeping an eye on that I was looking at last night that was making me anticipate this move down even more. And that is the SPY, guys. You can see the S&P 500 is absolutely destroyed right now. And this is not unlikely to see, right? We talk about this on my live stream sometimes when we look at the stock market, just up and to the right. This cannot continue forever. And not only that, but as we look here, if I pull up the 2-week time frame real quick, you guys can see we are actually putting in a pretty clean bearish divergence on the 2-week with your higher highs on your price action, lower highs on your momentum waves, fresh 2-week red dot printing. So we could potentially still see this little continuation. And if we pull up the QQQ, you guys can see these are the levels that I had last night, looking for this nice little bounce zone here on the 786. And you guys can see, not only is the S&P showing those bearish signs, but so is the QQQ with the higher highs on your price action, lower highs on your momentum waves, giving you that 2-week bearish divergence. On top of that, you also have a monthly red dot, at least on the QQQ. I believe you have it on the SPY as well. Yeah, SPY, monthly red dot as well. So there are definitely signs of weakness here in the stock market as well. So Fingers crossed. Hopefully we don't have to see a mega dump here on Bitcoin or anything else. Like I said, even gold took a little bit of a pullback with everything going on right now. But like I said, guys, I don't pay too much attention to the news because if you watch this live stream, you know that higher time frame money flow has been coming out since before the July 4th dump, which made us anticipate the lower high and the continuation down. So these signs were 100% on the chart before any of this news came out. So just keep that in mind. Trust in the charts. They're not 100%, but they play out more often than they don't. And with all that being said, pray for Bitcoin. Hopefully we don't lose that macro POC and we don't have to see those lower levels. And I will keep you guys updated as new information comes in. And with all that being said, that's all the time I got for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Frankie Candles out. Here we go. At the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming, I'm a landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command, like, yeah, you about to see me under man.